welcome to another episode of Soul's Podcast. I hope that you're having a great day wherever you are. Here we learn together to heal, to free our souls from all burdens of the past, and to cultivate more self-love. In today's episode, we want to talk about ego. In the first episode of Soul's Podcast, I have already discussed about inner parts and gave you a short overview of internal family system, a psychological model which describes our internal mental system. Please go ahead and listen to the first episode if you haven't yet, because it makes the current episode easier to follow. Ego is normally considered as the logical mind, the left half of the brain which is responsible for language, logic, and analytical thinking. In other words, it is the sum of all our inner parts. Contrary to the right half of the brain, which is responsible for creative and visual processing, as well as social and emotional cues, the ego is programmed as we grow and therefore heavily biased based on the society and cultural norms we grew up with. As we grow and go through education and socialization process, we start to identify ourselves more and more based on these social and cultural norms and the roles which are assigned to us by our ecosystem of things, people, and beliefs. The human ego has a specific agenda to keep us safe and alive and to avoid pain. It has its own limited database of previous experiences and the knowledge taught to us in the past. It refers to this database for each decision we need to make for the future. Being restricted by its agenda for safety and survival, ego comes from a place of scarcity and lack, not abundance. It is very judgmental and competitive. Is constantly comparing and analyzing our surroundings. It comes up with 100 different scenarios by predicting different outcomes, and ego is certainly a control freak which fears failure. The ego is a storytelling machine, constantly vacillating between the past and the future to predict possible outcomes and analyze them to make a choice. While the past leans on memory and the future relies on imagination, both are only theoretical concepts, and the stories we tell ourselves in the present moment and not the current reality. This duality creates the tension between history's conditioning and the anticipation of what is to come, which can cause analysis paralysis and make us feel stressed. Many spiritual and psychological traditions argue that true freedom involves stepping out of this temporal duality. When an individual detaches from the constant cycle of projecting into the future or regretting the past, they anchor themselves in present moment, recognizing that the past and future are merely creations of an active, wandering mind. Many believe that logical mind is a creator. However, it cannot create beyond what is known and already exists. Since human ego is fully merged with the matrix, therefore can only create in the framework of 4 dimensions, and its agenda is to serve the matrix instead of serving the whole collective, the purpose of whole universe, which is absolute consciousness. Unless we grow awareness and become conscious, the ego is only sleepwalking, following some protocol and agenda which was hardwired and programmed by others and the external circumstances into our brain as we grew up, which we take as the right, and everything else suddenly becomes wrong. Again, we come back to the concept of duality. There is no freedom of choice in that kind of living. As Carl Jung once wisely said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And what a limited life it will be, directed by a dreadful ego. Consciousness is about going beyond the limitations and bias of ego, observing the matrix instead of buying into the drama and staying in lower vibrations and playing the blame game. It is a very dangerous game to play since it is the root cause of all negative emotions. It lowers your vibration constantly and lowers your self esteem and takes away your sense of authority. In other words, your inner control freak, the ego, who is sitting in the driver's seat of your life because you let him, is taking away the control of your life. Having a closer look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how these 5 tiers of needs motivate human behavior, one can easily realize why operating from a place of pure ego and only following the agenda for safety and survival can keep you in the comfort zone for a lifetime and stand in the way of your own success. According to Maslow, individuals must fulfill fundamental survival and security needs before progressing to complex psychological and self-fulfillment needs, meaning basic survival must be met before growth happens. The theory is traditionally shown as a pyramid, starting from the most fundamental human needs at the bottom. Tier 1 is psychological needs. These are the basic biological necessities required for human survival. If these are lacking, a person's primary motivation will be to satisfy them above all else. Examples are air, water, food, shelter, sleep, warmth, and clothing. Tier 2 is safety needs. Once psychological needs are sufficiently met, the need for security and predictability takes over. People are motivated by a desire to control their environment and live free from fear. Examples of safety needs are personal security, financial security, health and wellness, and safety against accidents or injury. Tier 3 is love and belonging needs. After basic and safety needs are secured, human social needs become the primary driver of behavior. This involves the need for interpersonal connections, acceptance, and community. Examples of love and belonging needs are friendships, romantic relationships, family, trust, intimacy, and being part of a group or community where you belong. Tier 4 is esteem needs. At the first level, humans desire to feel valued, respected, and competent. Maslow categorized this into 2 parts. First, esteem for oneself, meaning dignity, mastery, independence. And then, the desire for reputation or respect from others, meaning status and recognition. Some examples are career achievements, academic success, athletic accomplishments, and personal confidence. And finally, tier 5 is self-actualization needs. At the top of the pyramid is self-actualization, which represents the realization of a person's full potential. Rather than focusing on what they lack, individuals at this stage are motivated by personal growth, creativity, and self-fulfillment. Examples are pursuing creative arts, seeking a spiritual enlightenment, learning new skills, and mastering a craft. Your ego can block your success by being extremely focused on survival, security, and belonging. It forces you to tolerate injustice, shrink, and adapt to gain external validation and fit into places and communities which dim your light and prevent you from being you and reaching your true potential. Ego prevents honest self-assessment needed to correct course. It prevents learning from failure because it craves external approval. It delays execution because it fears failure and traps you in perfectionism. Ego creates an illusion of knowledge, therefore prevents learning and awareness, rejects critical feedback, which immensely slows down your development. It also sabotages team dynamic by following its self-centered agenda. The ego starts with I. I am. I want. I think. I feel. So, it is very easy to detect. Carl Jung described the ego as the center of the field of one's psyche or current consciousness, representing our conscious awareness, sense of identity, and continuity of I. It's the hub through which all conscious experiences, thoughts, feelings, and sensations are connected. It dictates how we navigate and relate to both our inner landscape and the external world. The ego is often mistaken for the entirety of the personality, but it is actually just a small part of it. It is strictly confined to current level of one's consciousness, whereas the broader unconscious lies outside of it. In Jungian theory, the ego is subordinate to the self, the whole you. While the ego is the center of your current consciousness, the self is the center of the total personality, encompassing both the conscious and unconscious mind. In other words, the ego is what you know and have so far experienced, in contrary to the self, which is the whole picture of the reality that exists in all the parallel worlds. The self is your full potential as a spiritual being, not limited to your current identity. I love this analogy that you are a spiritual being with a closet full of different suits, identities that you can choose from every day. But somehow, due to limitations imposed to you by your current identity, the stories repeatedly told to you by your ego, you can also call it your core beliefs. You end up wearing the same identity every day and totally forget about all other opportunities that life has in stock for you. Your ego was only meant to serve you as a tool to provide you with bare minimum. But you have put the ego in charge of your whole life. Since your outer reality is just a reflection of your inner reality, you will certainly end up only surviving. Manifestation happens when you go beyond ego and its fears, when you break out of survival mode, when your intuition becomes your main navigation tool in life, and yourself and higher self, who are abundant and limitless, are in charge of your life. That is when you tap into your right half of the brain and real creation outside your current identity becomes possible. Everything you need to embark on your growth journey is already within you. Growth and sustainable change demand a shift in identity, rewiring your negative limiting core beliefs and discovering your true life purpose. There is currently a gap between your current identity and the identity who lives your desired life. As a coach, I am honored to help my clients to reflect, dive deep within, and access their inner source of guidance, which helps them bridge this identity gap and manifest their dream life. If you currently feel stuck in your life situation, I can help you free yourself from the limitations of ego. Find your true passion and get where you deserve to be. Thank you for being here with me today on another episode of Soul's Podcast. If you wish to learn more about this, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for more episodes and videos like this. I send you much love and light wherever you are. Your co-traveler and guide, Sareh. See you next time.